The chandelier glittered above the ballroom, casting a golden glow over the sea of tailored suits and shimmering gowns. Laughter and clinking glasses filled the air, a symphony of celebration for my husband, Daniel, who had just been promoted to partner at his law firm. I stood near the edge of the room, my emerald green dress catching the light. A smile plastered on my face despite the knot in my stomach. Daniel was across the room, shaking hands with his boss, Mr. Hargrove, his grin wide and boyish. I was proud of him, God. I was, but the weight of the evening pressed against my chest. My mother-in-law, Eleanor, glided through the crowd like a queen, her red gown trailing behind her. At 62, she carried herself with the kind of authority that made people step aside without realizing why. Her silver hair was swept into an elegant updo, and her sharp blue eyes scanned the room, always calculating. To the world, she was the perfect matriarch, the proud mother of a rising star. To me, she was a storm I could never outrun. Claire, darling, she called, her voice syrupy as she approached. I braced myself. You're looking adequate tonight. Her smile was a blade, slicing through the pretense of warmth. I forced a laugh, though my hands tightened around my champagne flute. Thank you, Eleanor, I said, keeping my tone light. You look stunning, as always. She tilted her head, her gaze lingering on me like I was a puzzle she couldn't solve or didn't want to. Daniel's worked so hard for this, she said, her voice dropping. I hope you're not distracting him from what matters. The jab landed, as it always did. 6 years of marriage, and Eleanor still treated me like an interloper, a temporary fixture in her son's perfect life. I opened my mouth to respond, but she was already turning away, her attention caught by a colleague of Daniel's. I exhaled, my shoulders sagging. I was used to her barbs, but tonight they stung deeper. This was Daniel's night, and I wanted it to be perfect for him. The evening wore on, and I played my part, the supportive wife, laughing at the right moments, nodding at stories about cases I didn't understand. But Eleanor's presence loomed, her eyes catching mine across the room, her smile never reaching them. I sipped my champagne, trying to shake the unease creeping up my spine. Then it happened. Daniel was giving his speech, his voice steady and confident as he thanked his team, his mentors, and, finally, me. Claire, he said, his eyes finding mine in the crowd. You've been my rock. I wouldn't be here without you. The room erupted in applause, and my heart swelled. For a moment, I felt like I belonged. But as I stepped forward to join him, Eleanor intercepted me. Her hand shot out, gripping my wrist so tightly I gasped. Don't you dare take credit for this, she hissed, her voice low enough that only I could hear. This is my son's moment, not yours. Eleanor, I started, but before I could finish, her hand cracked across my face. The slap echoed in my ears, sharp and humiliating, though the room's chatter drowned it out. My cheek burned, and tears stung my eyes as I stumbled back, clutching my face. A few heads turned, but most were too caught up in the celebration to notice. Eleanor's face was a mask of cold triumph. Know your place, she whispered, then turned and melted back into the crowd. I stood frozen, my breath shallow, the room spinning around me. My husband was still smiling on stage, oblivious. The guests were clapping, their faces blurred through my tears. I wanted to scream, to run, to disappear. But something inside me shifted a spark of anger, hot and unyielding. I wasn't going to let her win. Not tonight. Not ever again. I straightened, wiping my tears with the back of my hand. My cheek still throbbed, but I forced myself to move, weaving through the crowd toward the bar. I needed a moment to think, to breathe. to figure out what to do next. The bartender, a kind-faced man in his 50s, gave me a concerned look. "You okay, ma'am?" he asked. I nodded, though my voice trembled. "Just a rough night." He slid a glass of water across the counter. "Take it easy. You look like you could use a break." I thanked him and sipped the water, my mind racing. Eleanor had crossed a line, and I couldn't unfeel the sting of her hand or the venom in her words. For years, I'd swallowed her insults, her passive-aggressive digs, all for Daniel's sake. But this was different. This was public, deliberate, and cruel. And I was done. As I scanned the room, my eyes landed on Mr. Hargrove, Daniel's boss. He was a tall man in his late 50s, with a kind but discerning demeanor. He'd always been warm to me, respectful, the kind of person who saw through facades. An idea began to form, reckless and dangerous, but it felt like the only way to reclaim my dignity. I glanced at Eleanor, laughing with a group of Daniel's colleagues, her charm effortless. She thought she'd won, that I'd slink away and stay silent. But she didn't know it really. I wasn't just Daniel's wife, the quiet woman who smiled and nodded. I was Claire, and I had a voice. I took a deep breath and made my way toward Mr. Hargrove. If Eleanor wanted to play dirty, I'd show her and everyone else the truth about this family. Mr. Hargrove stood near the edge of the ballroom, sipping a glass of bourbon, his eyes scanning the room with the quiet observance of someone who missed nothing. I smoothed my dress, my heart pounding as I approached. The sting on my cheek was a constant reminder of Eleanor's slap, fueling the fire in my chest. This wasn't just about me, Anna Maria, it was about exposing the truth, about showing the world the kind of woman Eleanor really was. "Mr. Hargrove," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "May I have a moment?" He turned, his expression warm but curious. "Claire, of course. You look shaken. Everything all right?" I hesitated, my fingers twisting together. This was a point of no return. "Not really," I admitted, my voice low. "I need to tell you something about Daniel's family. It's not easy to say." His brow furrowed, and he gestured to a quieter corner of the room. "Let's step over here," he said, his tone gentle but serious. I followed, my pulse racing. The crowd's laughter and chatter faded into a dull hum as we moved away from the main throng. "What's going on, Claire?" he asked, his voice calm but probing. "You don't strike me as someone who speaks lightly." I took a deep breath, the words tumbling out before I could second-guess myself. Eleanor Daniel's mother, she just slapped me. In front of everyone. She told me to know my place. That this night wasn't about me. My voice cracked, but I pushed through. She's been belittling me for years. But tonight, she crossed a line. Mr. Hargrove's face darkened, his jaw tightening. "She did what?" His voice was low, but there was an edge to it. A controlled anger that made me feel seen. "That's unacceptable. Are you hurt?" I touched my cheek, the skin still warm. "Just my pride. Mostly. But I can't keep pretending everything's fine. Daniel doesn't see it or doesn't want to. Eleanor's built this perfect image. But it's a lie. She's manipulative, cruel, and I'm done letting her control me." He studied me for a moment, his eyes searching mine. "Claire, I've known Daniel's family for years. Eleanor's always been formidable. But this is something else." He paused, glancing across the room where Eleanor was holding court, her laughter carrying over the crowd. "What do you want to do about it?" The question caught me off guard. I'd expected him to dismiss me, to brush it off as family drama. But his sincerity gave me courage. I want people to see her for who she is, I said, my voice firm. Not just me, Daniel. His colleagues. Everyone. She's been hiding behind this facade for too long. Mr. Hargrove nodded slowly, his expression unreadable. That's a bold move, Claire. But if you're serious, I can help. Discreetly. Daniel's a good man, and I'd hate for this to hurt him. But no one should get away with treating you like that. His words were a lifeline, pulling me back from the edge of doubt. Thank you, I whispered, my throat tight. I need to do this. For myself. He gave me a small, reassuring smile. Let's think this through. If you want to expose her, it needs to be strategic. No outbursts. No scenes. Something that speaks for itself. We spent the next few minutes talking quietly, his calm pragmatism grounding my racing thoughts. He suggested I gather evidence texts, emails, anything that showed Eleanor's true nature. People like her thrive on control, he said, but they unravel when the mask slips. You just need to give it a nudge. As we spoke, I felt a shift inside me. For years, I'd let Eleanor's words chip away at my confidence, making me question my worth. But standing here, with Mr. Hargrove listening, believing me, I felt a spark of power. I wasn't just Daniel's wife. I wasn't just Eleanor's punching bag. I was Claire, and I was done being silent. The party continued around us, oblivious to the storm brewing. Daniel was still mingling, his laugh ringing out as he clinked glasses with his colleagues. I caught his eye across the room, and he waved, his smile bright. My heart ached. I loved him, God. I loved him, but he'd never seen the full extent of his mother's cruelty. Part of me wanted to protect him, to keep this night perfect for him. But another part, the part that was still stinging from Eleanor's slap, knew I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I thanked Mr. Hargrove and slipped back into the crowd, my mind buzzing with possibilities. My phone buzzed in my clutch, and I pulled it out, expecting a text from Daniel. Instead, it was a message from my sister, Lily, who I'd confided in about Eleanor's behavior over the years. You okay? How's the party? I stared at the screen, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. I could tell her everything, spill the whole ugly truth. But instead, I typed, not great. Eleanor slapped me. I'm going to do something about it. Her response came instantly. What? Claire, are you serious? What are you going to do? I didn't answer right away. I didn't know yet, not exactly. But as I looked across the room at Eleanor, her head thrown back in laughter, I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going to let her win. The party's energy pulsed around me, but I felt detached, like I was watching it all through a pane of glass. Eleanor's laughter still echoed in my mind, sharp and mocking, as I slipped into a quiet hallway off the ballroom. My phone was still in my hand, Lily's message glowing on the screen. I leaned against the wall, my breath uneven, and typed a quick reply. I'm figuring it out. I'll call you later. I needed a plan, something concrete. Mr. Hargrove's advice about evidence rang in my ears. Over the years, Eleanor had left a trail of subtle cruelties, texts, voicemails, even emails she'd sent under the guise of advice. I'd saved most of them, not because I'd planned to use them, but because deleting them felt like letting her erase me. Now, they were my ammunition. I opened my email app, scrolling through the folder I'd labeled Eleanor. There were dozens of messages, each one a small cut. Claire, you really should dress more appropriately for Daniel's events. I'm only saying this because I care about my son's future. But you need to try harder. The words were cloaked in politeness, but the venom was clear. I forwarded a few of the worst ones to my personal email, my hands trembling. This was real now. I was doing this. A noise behind me made me jump. Daniel stood at the end of the hallway. His tie slightly loosened. His face lit with that easy smile I'd fallen in love with. "There you are," he said, walking toward me. "I've been looking for you. You okay?" My heart clenched. He didn't know. He hadn't seen. "I'm fine," I lied, tucking my phone away. "Just needed a breather." He frowned, stepping closer. "You sure? You look upset." His hand brushed my arm. And for a moment, I wanted to tell him everything, to spill the truth about his mother's slap, her years of cruelty. But the words caught in my throat. Daniel loved his mother, saw her as the pillar of their family. Telling him now, in the middle of his big night, would shatter him. "I'm just tired," I said, forcing a smile. "It's been a long night." He studied me, his green eyes searching mine. "You'd tell me if something was wrong, right?" I nodded, my throat tight. "Of course." He pulled me into a quick hug, his warmth steadying me. "Come back out soon." "Okay. Hargrove wants to talk to us both. Something about a new project." He kissed my forehead and headed back to the ballroom, leaving me alone again. I exhaled, my resolve hardening. Daniel deserved to know the truth, but not like this, not in a rushed, emotional outburst. I needed to be smart, to show him and everyone else what Eleanor was capable of without tearing him apart in the process. Back in the ballroom, I kept my distance from Eleanor, watching her work the room. She was a master at it, her charm disarming, her stories polished. But I saw the cracks, her quick glances to make sure she was the center of attention, the way her smile tightened when someone else spoke too long. She thrived on control, and I was about to take it away. I found Mr. Hargrove again, this time near the dessert table. He was alone, scanning a program for the evening. "Claire," he said, nodding as I approached. "Thought any more about our conversation?" "I have," I said, my voice low. "I've got emails, texts, years of them. They show how she talks to me, how she undermines me. I can share them with you, but I don't want to hurt Daniel." He nodded, his expression thoughtful. "Send me what you have. I'll review them discreetly. If it's as bad as you say, we'll figure out a way to handle this without making a scene. Daniel's a good man, and I respect him, but no one should be treated the way you've been." I felt a rush of gratitude. "Thank you, Mr. Hargrove. I'll send them tonight." As I walked away, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Lily. "Whatever you're planning, be careful. Eleanor's not someone to mess with." I typed back, "I know, but I'm done being afraid." The rest of the evening passed in a blur. I smiled, laughed, played the part of the perfect wife. But inside, I was a live wire. Every time Eleanor's eyes met mine, I saw the challenge in them, the smug certainty that she'd won. But she hadn't. Not yet. When the party finally wound down, Daniel and I drove home in silence. He was exhausted, his head tipped back against the seat, a contented smile on his face. "Tonight was perfect," he murmured. "Thanks for being there, Claire." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Always," I said, my voice soft. But as we pulled into our driveway, I knew things were about to change. I'd forwarded the emails to Mr. Hargrove from my phone in the car, my fingers shaking as I hit send. There was no going back now. Eleanor had built her empire on lies and control, but I was about to tear it down. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee and the soft hum of Daniel's voice in the kitchen. He was on the phone, likely with a colleague, his tone light and professional. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my heart heavy with what I'd set in motion. The emails I'd sent to Mr. Hargrove felt like a grenade I'd pulled the pin from. And now I was waiting for the explosion. I dragged myself out of bed, my cheek still tender from Eleanor's slap. In the mirror, I could see a faint red mark, a ghost of her hand. It was a reminder of why I was doing this not just for me, but for the truth. For years, I'd let Eleanor's cruelty slide, convincing myself it was easier to stay quiet. But silence hadn't protected me. It had only emboldened her. Downstairs, Daniel was pouring coffee, his hair still damp from the shower. "Morning, babe," he said, flashing me that easy smile. "You sleep okay?" "Not really," I admitted, taking the mug he offered. "Last night was a lot." He frowned, setting his cup down. "You've been off since the party. What's going on, Claire?" I hesitated, my fingers tightening around the mug. This was my chance to tell him everything, but the words felt like they'd choke me. "It's complicated," I said finally. "Can we talk later? I just need a little time." He studied me, his expression softening. "Okay, but I'm here." "All right, whatever it is." I nodded, my throat tight. I hated keeping this from him, but I needed to see what Mr. Hargrove would do with the emails first. If I told Daniel now, he might confront Eleanor, and she'd twist it, make me the villain. I couldn't risk that, not yet. The day passed in a haze of nervous energy. I tried to focus on work, but my phone was a constant distraction, buzzing with texts from Lily, who was demanding updates. "Have you heard from Hargrove? What's the plan?" I didn't have answers, so I kept my replies vague, promising to call her soon. By late afternoon, my phone pinged with an email from Mr. Hargrove. My heart raced as I opened it. "Claire, I've reviewed the messages you sent. They're troubling, to say the least. I'd like to meet with you and Daniel tomorrow to discuss this privately. Eleanor's behavior is unacceptable, and I want to ensure it's addressed appropriately. Please let me know a time that works." Relief and dread crashed over me. He believed me. He was taking this seriously. But the thought of sitting down with Daniel and Mr. Hargrove, laying out Eleanor's cruelty in front of my husband, made my stomach churn. I replied, suggesting a time tomorrow morning, then set my phone down, my hands shaking. That evening, Daniel sensed my unease. We were on the couch, a half-watched movie playing in the background, when he turned to me. "Claire, you're scaring me. What's going on? Is it work? Something else?" I took a deep breath, my resolve wavering. "It's about your mom," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. She slapped me at the party last night." His eyes widened, his body going still. "What? Claire, are you serious?" I nodded, tears prickling my eyes. She grabbed my wrist, told me to know my place, and then she slapped me, in front of everyone. No one saw, but it happened. Daniel's face paled, his jaw clenching. "Why didn't you tell me right away? Why would she do that?" "Because she's always done this," I said, my voice breaking. "For years, she's belittled me, undermined me, made me feel like I'm not good enough for you. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to hurt you, Daniel. But I can't keep pretending it's okay." He stood, running a hand through his hair, his expression a mix of shock and anger. I can't believe she'd do that. I mean, I know she's tough, but slapping you. Claire, I'm so sorry." I reached for his hand, my heart aching. "I know you love her, and I don't want to tear you apart, but I've sent some of her messages to Mr. Hargrove, texts, emails, things she said to me over the years. He's going to meet with us tomorrow to talk about it." Daniel's eyes widened. "You went to my boss?" Claire, why didn't you come to me first? I wanted to, I said, tears spilling over. But I was afraid you wouldn't believe me, or that you'd defend her. I needed someone else to see it, someone who could help. He sat back down, his face a storm of emotions. I don't know what to say. I'm furious with her. But she's my mom. Claire, this is a lot. I know, I whispered. I'm not asking you to choose. I just need you to see her for who she is. He nodded, his expression grim. Okay, we'll meet with Hargrove. But Claire, I'm on your side. Always. His words were a balm, but they didn't erase the fear gnawing at me. Tomorrow, everything would change, and I wasn't sure any of us were ready for it. The morning of the meeting with Mr. Hargrove felt like stepping into a courtroom. Daniel and I drove to his office in silence, the weight of what was coming pressing down on us. I'd barely slept, my mind replaying Eleanor's slap, her cruel words, and the look on Daniel's face when I'd told him the truth. He'd been quiet since, his jaw tight, his eyes distant. I hated that I was forcing him to see his mother in a new light, but I couldn't back down now. Mr. Hargrove's office was all glass and steel, a stark contrast to the warmth of the party the night before. He greeted us with a nod, his expression serious but kind. Thank you both for coming, he said, gesturing to the chairs across from his desk. This isn't an easy conversation, but it's necessary. Daniel sat beside me, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. Mr. Hargrove, I'm still processing this, he said, his voice strained. Claire told me what happened with my mother. I don't know what to think. Mr. Hargrove nodded, his eyes flicking to me. Claire, I've read the emails and texts you sent. They paint a clear picture of a pattern of behavior disrespectful, manipulative, and, frankly, abusive. The incident at the party only confirms it. Daniel's head snapped up. Abusive. That's a strong word. It is, Mr. Hargrove said, his tone even. But it's accurate. Claire's been enduring this for years. And it's not just personnel, it's affecting the professional environment. I can't ignore that. I felt Daniel stiffen beside me. What are you saying? He asked, his voice low. I'm saying your mother's behavior reflects poorly on the firm. Mr. Hargrove said, she's a prominent figure at our events, and her actions carry weight. If she's treating your wife this way, it raises questions about her character and about how we handle these situations. Daniel's face was pale, his hands gripping the arms of his chair. So what happens now? You're going to, what? Fire me. Because of my mom. No one's talking about firing you, Mr. Hargrove said firmly. You're an asset to this firm, Daniel. But we need to address this. Claire, what do you want to see happen? The question hit me like a spotlight. I'd been so focused on exposing Eleanor that I hadn't thought about what came next. I took a deep breath, my hands trembling. I want her to stop, I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. I want her to understand that she can't treat me or anyone like this. I want her to face consequences, not just for me, but for the sake of everyone she's ever hurt. Mr. Hargrove nodded, his expression thoughtful. I agree. I propose we confront Eleanor directly, not publicly, but in a controlled setting. She needs to understand the gravity of her actions. And Daniel, I'd like you to be there. Daniel's eyes widened. You want me to confront my own mother? I know it's hard, Mr. Hargrove said. But if you don't, this will fester. Claire's been carrying this alone for too long. It's time to face it together. Daniel looked at me, his eyes searching mine. I saw the conflict there, the love for his mother, the loyalty to me, The confusion of it all. Okay, he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. I'll do it. The meeting ended with a plan. Mr. Hargrove would arrange a private meeting with Eleanor, Daniel, and me. He'd present the evidence me emails. My account of the slap hand, give her a chance to respond. If she refused to acknowledge her actions, he'd consider barring her from firm events, a move that would humiliate her in the social circles she cherished. As we left the office, Daniel took my hand, his grip tight. I'm sorry, Claire, he said, his voice raw. I should have seen this. I should have protected you. Tears stung my eyes, but I squeezed his hand. You're here now? I said. That's what matters. The rest of the day was a blur of anticipation. I called Lily, filling her in on the plan. You're brave, she said, her voice full of admiration. But be careful. Eleanor's not going to go down quietly. I know, I said, but I'm ready. That night, I lay awake beside Daniel, listening to his steady breathing. Tomorrow, we'd face Eleanor together. And whatever happened, I knew one thing. I wasn't invisible anymore. The meeting was set for a small conference room at the firm, a neutral space that felt anything but neutral as we walked in. Eleanor was already there, seated at the head of the table, her posture rigid, her red lipstick a stark contrast to her pale face. She didn't look at me, her eyes fixed on Mr. Hargrove, who sat across from her. Daniel and I took seats on either side, the air thick with tension. Thank you for coming, Eleanor. Mr. Hargrove began, his voice calm but firm. We're here to discuss an incident that occurred at Daniel's promotion party, as well as a pattern of behavior that's come to my attention. Eleanor's lips tightened, but she said nothing, her hands folded neatly in her lap. I could feel her disdain, the way she radiated control even now. Mr. Hargrove slid a folder across the table. These are emails and texts you sent to Claire over the years. They're unkind, to put it mildly. And then there's the matter of the physical altercation at the party. Eleanor's eyes flicked to the folder, then to me. For the first time, I saw a crack in her composure, a flicker of unease. Physical altercation, she said, her voice cool. That's a gross exaggeration. Claire and I had a disagreement. Nothing more. You slapped me, I said, my voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. You grabbed my wrist, told me to know my place, and slapped me in front of a room full of people. Daniel's head snapped toward his mother, his eyes wide. Mom, is that true? Eleanor's face hardened. She's blowing this out of proportion. Daniel, you know how emotional she gets. I was simply trying to keep her from embarrassing you. Embarrassing me? Daniel's voice rose, his hands clenching into fists. You hit my wife. How is that protecting me? Eleanor flinched, but her voice remained steady. I've only ever wanted what's best for you. Claire doesn't understand the world you're in, the pressure, the expectations. I was trying to guide her. By humiliating her. Daniel's voice cracked, his anger raw. Mom, I've read the emails. The way you talk to her, it's cruel. I didn't know. I should have known, but I didn't. Eleanor's eyes narrowed, her gaze shifting to me. You've turned my son against me, she said, her voice low and venomous. This is your doing, Claire. No, I said, meeting her eyes. This is your doing. You chose to treat me like I was nothing. You chose to cross that line. And now you have to face it. Mr. Hargrove cleared his throat, drawing her attention. Eleanor, your behavior is unacceptable. It's not just about Claire, it reflects on the firm, on Daniel's reputation. I'm giving you a choice, acknowledge what you've done. Apologize. And commit to change, or you'll no longer be welcome at firm events. Eleanor's face went white, her hands trembling slightly. You're threatening me. After everything I've done for this family. I'm protecting my firm, Mr. Hargrove said. And I'm protecting Claire, who's been nothing but loyal to Daniel and professional in our circles. For a moment, the room was silent. Eleanor's eyes darted between us, her composure crumbling. Then, to my shock, she stood, her chair scraping against the floor. I won't be humiliated like this, she said, her voice shaking. You'll regret this. All of you. She stormed out, the door slamming behind her. Daniel buried his face in his hands, his shoulders shaking. I reached for him, my heart breaking. I'm sorry, I whispered. I didn't want it to come to this. He looked up, his eyes red. No, Claire. I'm sorry. I let this happen. I let her hurt you. Mr. Hargrove stood, giving us a moment. Take some time, he said softly. We'll talk later about next steps. After he left, Daniel and I sat in silence, his hand in mine. What happens now? He asked, his voice hollow. We move forward, I said, squeezing his hand. Together. In the weeks that followed, Eleanor kept her distance, her absence a quiet victory. Daniel and I started therapy, working through the pain of what had happened. The firm stood by us, and Mr. Hargrove ensured Eleanor's influence was curtailed. Slowly, I began to reclaim my voice, my strength. Eleanor's true face had been revealed not just to Daniel, but to those who mattered. And for the first time in years, I felt free. Not because she was gone, but because I'd finally stood up for myself. I wasn't just Daniel's wife. I was Claire, resilient, unbroken, and ready to face whatever came next.